I came home after a double shift at the hospital and my 7-year-old daughter was gone. My mom said, "We voted. You have no say." My sister was already taking apart her room to claim it. I took a deep breath, said one sentence, and the whole house froze. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and share in the comments which city you're watching from. We'd love to know where our community is growing. It was just after 11 a.m. when I arrived at the family home in Querétaro. I'd come from a very long shift, one of those where you lose track of time. I expected to hear Clara, my daughter, with a cartoon in the background, her footsteps in the hallway, or her voice asking if I'd arrived, but I heard adult voices, laughter, and too much movement. In that house, that was almost never good. My whole body ached. My legs felt heavy as if they weren't mine. I had imagined that day very simply. Sleep 2 or 3 hours, eat with Clara, help her with homework, and put her to bed myself. That was the plan. I walked in and my stomach tightened. The house smelled of coffee and honey hotcakes. From the kitchen I heard my mom's voice, that cheerful voice she used when she wanted to convince you before you even asked. Then I saw my sister Andrea in the hallway in socks, dragging folded boxes. Against the wall was an open box for a ring light. Andrea looked up, barely smiled, and said, "Oh, you're here," as if I was in the way. I didn't smile back. I didn't ask about the boxes. I walked past her straight to Clara's room because I wasn't just visiting. I'm her mom. I opened the door and stood in the doorway. The room was meticulously disassembled, too carefully to call it messy. Clara's bed was stripped, just the bare mattress. Her favorite blanket was folded and tossed in a laundry basket. Her plush bunny was on the dresser, facing the wall. On the walls were clear marks where her drawings and marker posters used to be. There was painter's tape on the baseboards, a tape measure on the floor, and on the desk were printed sheets with photos of beige rooms, white shelves, and perfect lighting. They weren't cleaning. They were moving Clara out of that room. My throat tightened. I took a slow turn as if Clara might be hiding. The closet was open. Her backpack wasn't there. My hands felt cold. "Clara," I called, first softly. Nothing. I took another step. "Clara." Silence. I went out into the hallway. Andrea was leaning against the wall, pretending to examine her nails. "Where is she?" I asked. Andrea blinked innocently. "Who?" My voice was calm, too calm. "My daughter." "Where's my daughter?" Before Andrea could answer, my mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands with a cloth. "Mariana, come here for a second," she said. I didn't move. "Where's Clara?" My dad came out behind her. Andrea shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Suddenly, no one wanted to look me in the eye. I repeated, "Where's Clara?" My mom lifted her chin. "We all decided." I looked at her, not understanding. "Decided what?" She pressed her lips together. "That this couldn't go on. You don't get a vote, Mariana. You're never here." I froze. "Vote on what to do with my daughter?" I asked slowly. My dad crossed his arms. "It was discussed. It was necessary." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Discussed about my daughter? Without me?" My mom hardened her face. "You work all the time. You come home tired, you fall asleep, you leave. Don't you see what's happening here?" "I work because the bills don't pay themselves," I said. "Now tell me where she is." Andrea interjected as if commenting on the weather. "She's with her dad." The air left my chest. "With Esteban?" My mom nodded, satisfied. "Where she should be." I felt a tingling in my hands. "Clara sees him a few times a year. That doesn't make him a dad." "But he's her father," my dad said. "Biologically," I replied. "Not in real life." My mom sighed. "We had to decide. You don't see it because you're her mom." "I am her mom," I said. "That's what matters." Andrea stepped forward and pointed at the room. "Besides, we need that space." I looked at her. "You need my daughter's room?" Andrea didn't flinch. "I work from home. I need a room for recording. For my videos. You can't record with a child running around." I turned to my mom. "You're going to turn Clara's room into a studio?" My mom said, "We can't have a child here all day. Changes our routine. It's too much." "Too much." I repeated. "My daughter is too much for you?" My dad added, And you can't take care of her. You're always at the hospital. Don't act like this surprises you. My anger suddenly drained away, leaving a strange hard calm. It was something clearer. I took a deep breath, then turned and walked to the bathroom. Not because I was running away. If I stayed in that hallway one more minute, I'd say things I didn't want to say. Not like this, not yet. Not without thinking, not without getting my daughter back. I locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was tired with dark circles and messy hair. I put both hands on the sink and breathed. Once again, one more time. Then I opened the door and left. They were still justifying themselves, repeating phrases as if that would make what they did right. I walked towards them. I no longer felt tired, I felt wide awake. I stopped in the middle of the hallway and said, "I want you out of my house in 30 days. The three of them froze. My mom blinked as if I'd spoken in another language. My dad opened his mouth and closed it. Andrea's smile vanished. "What did you say?" My mom blurted out. "What are you talking about?" My dad said, raising his voice. I didn't answer immediately. I walked to my room. Behind me the voices started. "That's not your house," my mom said. "It's our house. Don't talk to your parents like that," my dad barked. "We made a difficult decision for you," my mom insisted. "You should thank us." Andrea sounded sharper, already scared. "What does that mean? Are you threatening us?" I kept walking, entered my bedroom, took off my hospital shoes, grabbed my bag, my phone, and my keys. I opened the bottom drawer of the nightstand and took out a blue folder I'd avoided looking at for years. Inside were the deeds, bank documents, payment receipts, and notarized papers. The papers they called a simple formality. I put them in my bag. When I returned to the hallway, all three were waiting for me. They no longer seemed angry. They seemed nervous. "I'm going to send you legal documents," I said. "I want you out of this house." My mom froze. My dad took a step forward. "You can't do that." Andrea looked at him. "She can, Dad, she can." I didn't reply. I walked out the front door. I just left. Behind me I heard their tone change. They no longer sounded sure. They sounded worried. In the car my hands were firm on the steering wheel. Inside I wasn't. I called Esteban. Nothing. It went to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. My parents had Susanna's, Esteban's mom's, number because I'd once left it as an emergency contact. They also knew where she lived. They used that against me too. I called Susanna. She answered on the first ring. "Mariana," she said, her voice cold. "Do you know where Clara is?" I asked. And there my voice broke a little. "My parents say she's with Esteban, but he's not answering." "It's fine, Clara's here," Susanna said. Relief hit me first, then she added, "And until you explain what happened, I'm not handing her over just like that." "What?" "It's okay," she replied. "But your parents said you agreed." And she hung up. I looked at my phone, waiting for an explanation that wouldn't come. I turned the car around and drove to Susanna and David's house. It wasn't rush hour, but Querétaro still got stuck in stretches. Every minute without seeing my daughter tightened my chest more. When I arrived, I knocked hard on the door, not like a guest, like a mother. Susanna opened it just a few inches. I didn't greet her. "Where's Clara?" Susanna looked me up and down. My uniform, messy hair, the face of someone who hadn't slept. "She's here," she said. "Let me see her." "Your parents brought her. They said you agreed." "I didn't. They said you wanted Esteban to take charge." "Esteban isn't even answering my phone." That made her blink. Not with tenderness but with doubt. Behind her appeared David, her husband. He stood in the hallway with his arms crossed. "Is she okay?" I asked. Susanna answered immediately. "Are you sure? Then let me see her." Susanna didn't move her hand from the door. I felt my pulse in my throat. I forced myself to speak clearly. "I didn't come to argue. I came for my daughter. If you don't let me see her, my next call will be to the police. But first I need to know if she's okay." Susanna clenched her jaw. "You should have come with her." "I didn't send her. My parents brought her secretly." Silence. David watched me more attentively. Susanna remained firm. "People say many things when they want to fix what they did," she said. "Then don't believe me." I replied. I took out my phone and showed it to her. On the screen were the calls to Esteban one after another, then the call to Susanna. The time. I called him. He didn't answer. I called you. You hung up. Susanna barely looked. David looked longer. I lowered my phone. Asked Clara what they told her. Susanna clenched her jaw. David spoke for the first time. She arrived crying. Susanna shot him a glance, but I replied, yes. I nodded. So you already know something isn't right. The house fell silent. That ugly silence that forms when a child is nearby, trying not to make noise. David looked towards the dining room and then back at me. He no longer seemed so sure. Then he stepped aside. Come in. He didn't say it with affection, but he made space. I entered and saw her. Clara was sitting at the dining room table with a cup in front of her. Her shoulders were hunched, and her hands were wrapped around the cup, as if that was the only steady thing in the world. She looked too small. Clara, I said almost voicelessly. She looked up. She didn't run to me, she didn't smile. She just looked at me as if she was waiting to confirm if I was real. I walked to her and knelt beside her. Hello, my love. I hugged her. She didn't hug me back immediately. She stayed rigid with her arms glued to her body. That broke me inside. I pulled back a little to see her face. Her eyes were swollen, but she wasn't crying anymore. It was worse. It was as if she'd cried all she could. Then she spoke very softly. Grandma said you didn't want me anymore. I felt my throat close up. I glanced for a second at Susanna and David. They were at the entrance of the dining room, serious, silent. Then I looked back at my daughter. My love, I said, and my voice trembled. That's a lie. Clara swallowed. She said you told them to bring me. She said you were tired of me. My eyes burned. I got home and you weren't there, I told her softly. I looked for you in your room. I saw your backpack was missing. I asked about you, and as soon as I knew where you were, I came. You didn't tell them to bring me? Never. You're not tired of me? Never of you. Her lip trembled. But you work a lot. Yes, I said. I work a lot, but I never stop loving you out of tiredness. Never. She looked at me for a few more seconds. Then very slowly she raised her arms and hugged me. It wasn't a strong hug at first. It was cautious, as if she was afraid to trust. I held her just as tightly, carefully, not letting go. Behind us, Susanna spoke stiffly. We thought you didn't want her. I didn't look at her. Yes, I want her. David said more softly. They told us no one could take care of her. If that was true, we weren't going to leave her stranded. Susanna nodded, still serious. We weren't going to let her go from house to house. I breathed. It wasn't trust yet or forgiveness, but it was information. And at that moment, information helped. I stood up without letting go of Clara's hand. I'm taking her. Susanna didn't argue. David didn't block the door either. Clara squeezed my hand the whole way to the car. My fingers hurt, but I didn't let go. That pain assured me she was there. We didn't go back to the house. Not after seeing her room. Not after hearing what my mother had told her. I drove straight to a simple hotel near the hospital area. Light walls, quiet hallways, no memories of ours. Exactly what we needed. Clara got on the bed with her shoes on and stared at the turned-off TV.
I sat beside her.
Okay, I said softly. New plan. She looked at me, her eyes still distrustful. Are we safe? That question hit me harder than any scream. I took her hand. Yes, we're safe. I wiped my face and started with the urgent. I called the hospital. I had a family emergency, I told my head nurse. I need a few days. She didn't ask for details. Take what you need, she told me. We'll organize. I hung up and looked at my daughter. I ordered food, bathed her, put her in clean pajamas, made her a hot drink and put on her favorite cartoon. I didn't unload my anger on her. I just repeated what she needed to hear. Are you with me? I'll take care of you. No one will decide for us without asking me. She fell asleep clinging to me, as if afraid if she let go, I would disappear. When her breathing became even, I checked my phone. I had missed calls. Many Mom, Dad, Andrea. Messages too. Some demanded explanations, others accused me of exaggerating. Others said I was destroying the family. I didn't answer any of them. The next day I called a law firm. 2 days later I was sitting across from lawyer Moreno. I took out the blue folder and placed it on his desk. Deeds. Contract, restructuring, payment receipts, transfers, notary papers. When he finished, he looked up. The house is legally in your name, Mariana. So, can I ask them to leave? Yes, he said. We can send a formal notice of vacation. If they don't leave voluntarily, the corresponding process will begin. From what I see, you have a solid legal position. I nodded. Do it. The lawyer put his pen on the table. They'll be angry. They were already angry, I replied. This time it'll be in writing to explain how we got there. I have to go back a little. What happened with Clara didn't come out of nowhere. My family had been training me for years to give in. Andrea's 2 years younger than me, but in my house those 2 years were a crown. She was the special one, the creative, the sensitive. I was the responsible one. If Andrea cried, my mom ran. If I cried, my dad would say, "Come on, Mariana, you can do it." That's how I learned to do it. I learned not to ask. I learned to solve things before anyone got annoyed. Then I met Esteban. At first, Esteban was fun, attentive, lighthearted. He made me lower my guard. When I got pregnant, he changed. "I don't want kids," he told me, as if he was rejecting an invitation. I was young, yes, but not so young as to give up my daughter just because he wanted to continue living without responsibilities. I had Clara. Esteban held her once, awkwardly. After that, he became less present. He appeared a few times a year. He'd say, "Hi, little one." He'd take a picture and disappear again. We never arranged custody. Seriously. Esteban never believed in being a father. So Clara lived with me. When Clara was 5, I had a job that covered our needs. It wasn't the best, but it had more humane hours. I could pick her up from school, have dinner with her, and be there. Then I was offered a better position at a private hospital in Querétaro. Better salary, benefits, real growth. The problem was the hours. Long shifts, on-call, doubles when staff was short. On paper it was perfect. In real life you broke down and had no support. My first impulse was to say no. I mentioned it to my parents without thinking too much. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just talking. But they changed their attitude so quickly that it surprised me. Before that, they weren't particularly close with Clara. They weren't openly cruel. It was more subtle. They treated her as if she were a visitor. They hadn't cared much about my career either. That's why when my mom said, "You have to accept," I thought I'd misheard. "Come live here," she told me. "Your dad and I are retired. We'll help you with Clara. You can't pass up something like this." My dad nodded. Andrea, who was still living with them as an adult, said, "It would be foolish not to take it." Seemed strange to me, and of course it was. Then the truth came out. My parents were about to lose the house, my childhood home, the one they treated as if it were a symbol of everything they were. They had maxed out credit cards, personal loans, and overdue payments. Around 720,000 pesos in unsecured debt. Additionally, the house was at risk due to overdue mortgage, property tax, and other payments. Over 200,000 pesos. Their credit history was ruined. They couldn't refinance. My new job and my clean credit were their lifesavers. They sat me down at the table as if it were a family meeting, but it was really a negotiation. "We need you to sign some things," my mom said. "What things?" My dad cleared his throat. "The bank won't lend to us anymore, but they will to you." I had a bad feeling. "I'm not going into debt for you. It's temporary," my mom said quickly. "We'll help you." Andrea smiled as if proposing something very clever. "Your credit is good. Theirs isn't." Then came the part they tried to say as if it were a minor detail. "The house would have to be in your name," my dad said. "Just so the bank accepts," my mom added. "It's just a formality." A formality. They wanted me to assume the debt, risk my credit, put in my savings, but keep acting as if the house was theirs and the decisions too. I didn't like it. I didn't trust everything, but I also couldn't watch them lose the house without feeling responsible. I wanted to believe that caring for Clara was sincere. I accepted. I put almost all my savings, about 280,000 pesos, to regularize payments and initial expenses. The house was deeded in my name before a notary. and the credit remained with me as responsible. The monthly payment was around 26,000 pesos. Between my new salary, extra shifts, and what they promised to contribute, it seemed possible. They repeated so many times that it was just a piece of paper, that for a while I tried to believe it. First they complied. They took care of Clara. I worked. The house stabilized. The urgent debts were paid, and as soon as the danger passed, their gratitude also ran out. Suddenly I was dumping the child on them. Suddenly my job was a bad decision. Suddenly I was never around, as if they hadn't been the ones who insisted I take that job. Andrea started complaining more than anyone else, that Clara made noise, that she took up space, that her toys looked bad in videos, that she needed a room to record and organize her content for social media. My parents, as always, took her side. Then the comments about Esteban started. Well, her dad should take charge too. You can't depend on us your whole life. I didn't take it seriously. Esteban wasn't a father in any practical sense, and even if my family was unfair, I never thought they would dare to do something like that, until I came home after a double shift and found my daughter's room dismantled. That same week, my parents received the requirement from lawyer Moreno. They didn't respond in writing. They went straight to the hospital. Clara had already returned to school. She wasn't suddenly okay. That doesn't happen, but routine helped her. I was near reception when I heard my name. It wasn't a colleague's voice. It was a demanding voice. I turned around and saw them. My mom and dad had entered the hospital with the papers in hand. My mom's face was red with anger. My dad had that expression of a man who believes raising his voice makes him an authority. They walked straight towards me. "Mariana!" my mom shouted. Some patients turned. A colleague stopped writing. A security guard moved a little closer. I took a step forward before they turned my workplace into another scene. 5 minutes, I said. That's all. My mom let out a bitter laugh. Oh, now you set limits. I led them to a side hallway next to an empty consulting room, away from patients but in sight of others. My dad threw the papers at my chest. Explain this to me. My mom was trembling with anger. How dare you send lawyers to us? My dad said. Did you steal our house? I looked at him. I stole it from you? Yes, my mom said. You took advantage of a technicality. You planned it. I breathed calmly. Like in the hospital. You begged me to do it. We didn't beg, my mom spat. Yes, you did, I said. You had around 720,000 pesos in debt. The house was over 200,000 behind. You couldn't refinance, they wouldn't lend to you. I put in my savings, I signed. I ended up paying 26,000 pesos a month. I put my name, my credit, and my future. My dad clenched his jaw. My mom said, and now you're going to throw it in our faces? No, I'm just making clear whose responsibility it is. My dad took another step. We're your parents. I looked at him without moving. You stopped acting like my parents when you voted to take my daughter out of her room. My mom opened her mouth indignantly. We made a difficult decision for you. You didn't make it for me. You made it for yourselves, for Andrea, for your convenience, to control the house and keep using my money. My mom lowered her voice. That child was destroying the peace of the house. I felt something stab me in the chest, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. That child's name is Clara. She's my daughter, and you took her to a man who doesn't take care of her. You told her I didn't want her. My dad looked away for half a second. I saw it, and that was enough. You won't go near her again, I said. My mom raised her voice. You can't take our granddaughter away from us. Yes, I can, and I will. They both started talking at the same time. That I was ungrateful, that family isn't like that. That Andrea just needed space, that someday I would regret it. I took a step back and looked at the guard. Their 5 minutes are up. My mom tried to continue. The guard approached. Sir, ma'am, you need to leave. My dad pointed a finger at me. This isn't going to end here. I know, I said. That's why there are lawyers. They were escorted towards the exit. They kept talking, still trying to drag me back into the role of obedient daughter, useful daughter, daughter who stays silent so no one gets angry. But I wasn't going to obey again just so they could be comfortable. I stood in the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest, my hands trembling. Then I breathed, adjusted my badge, and went back. I still had patience and a daughter who needed me not to fall apart. Over the following weeks, my parents tried everything. Long messages, calls in the middle of the night, audio messages where my mom cried and then screamed in the same minute, relatives telling me that family is family. I replied the same thing just once. You took my daughter out of her room without my permission, you handed her over to her absentee father, and you told her I didn't want her. No family conversation will fix that. Then I blocked them. My parents consulted someone, I suppose, because their tone changed quickly. They went from threatening me to asking for a dignified exit. They wanted to stay more months, pay symbolic rent, and have Andrea keep the room because she'd already bought things. I didn't accept. I didn't throw them onto the street overnight. They had enough time to find somewhere to live, but I also didn't give them other years of my life. A month later, not because a judge had ordered anything yet, but because they understood that fighting was worse for them, they left. It wasn't a farewell. There was no hug or forgiveness. I arrived with the lawyer and a locksmith when they had already taken almost everything out. The house smelled of dust, of confinement, of things moved in a hurry. In Clara's room, there were tape marks on the wall and some poorly placed screws where Andrea had wanted to mount shelves. Clara wasn't with me. I wasn't going to take her to see that. My mom left me a note on the kitchen counter. Someday you'll understand what you did. I read it once. Then I threw it in the trash because I did understand what I did. I chose my daughter. After they left, the house felt enormous and alien. I couldn't live there again with Clara yet. Cleaned it. I painted Clara's room again, not so she would return, but to erase what Andrea had started. I put the few drawings I still found in an envelope. Then I rented the house. Because of the area, near schools and main avenues, I was able to rent it for 32,000 pesos a month. Discounting maintenance, property tax, and expenses, it left me a margin I didn't have before. I also changed jobs, left the hospital with double shifts, and accepted a position at a clinic in another area of Querétaro. Less impressive and with less direct money, yes, but with stable hours, afternoons with Clara, and nights where I could check her backpack without being half asleep. Clara took time to recover. It wasn't like in stories where a hug fixes everything. There were nights when she woke up to ask if I was still there. There were days when she looked at me with fear after school. I didn't rush her. I got her child's psychological support. I talked to her school, made it clear who could pick her up and who couldn't. I organized my life around a single promise: that my daughter would never again feel disposable. Little by little, she started sleeping better. She laughed again without looking at me first to check if it was okay to do so. She started leaving toys scattered in the living room again. She started asking me for hotcakes on Sundays again. And there was something I didn't expect. I kept talking to Susanna and David, not immediately. At first it was just messages about Clara. Then a short visit at a coffee shop. They never justified Esteban. They never asked me to chase him to be a father. They never pretended he was better than he was. Susanna once told me with dry honesty, "I raised Esteban and I know what went wrong. I won't lie to you about my son." David added, "If he ever wants to get close, he should do it properly. Not just for a photo or out of guilt." That mattered to me. Over time, Clara started seeing them once a week. First, I stayed nearby. Later, when I saw consistency, I allowed more relaxed visits. They didn't try to take my place or buy her with gifts. They just showed up. I heard little from Esteban. He called weeks later when I suppose his mom pressured him. He said he was processing everything. I told him Clara wasn't a pending errand and if he wanted to see her, he'd have to do it the right way, with clear agreements and thinking about her. He didn't insist much again. With that, I understood how much real interest he had. My parents and Andrea ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment. According to a cousin who didn't understand I didn't want news, Andrea was still living with them, still recording videos, still saying I had ruined her project. Maybe I did, but she had tried to build her project on my daughter's room. My mom kept saying I stole the house. My dad kept repeating that I took advantage. I no longer argue with that version. The documents are clear, the payments are too. The story is too. They asked me to put my name, my credit, and my savings to save their house. They used my work while it suited them, and when my daughter became inconvenient for their plans, they decided to kick her out without telling me. It wasn't just that afternoon. Since then, Clara had to relearn that she was safe. After that, repeating we're family wasn't enough. Now Clara and I live in a smaller, but quiet apartment. She has her room with light walls, drawings taped with colored tape, and her plush bunny looking towards the bed, not towards the wall. Some nights she still asks me, "Did you really love me that day?" And I answer the same thing. Every time that day, every day, and even when I'm tired. She nods. Sometimes she hugs me, sometimes she just thinks. It wasn't enough to tell her once. I had to repeat it with whole days, with schedules, with presents. My parents thought they could vote to kick my daughter out of the house. I didn't hold a vote. I opened the folder they themselves made me sign, called a lawyer, and I chose my daughter.